Hey, it's March the 1st, 2022, and you know why we're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. I am Gerissar, a PvP Padawan.
Hey guys, I'm Bigmoran.
What's up? I'm TreesapJake.
Hey! So, I guess first and foremost, Jake, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Again, but differently. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm really excited to be here. I'm so glad that you invited me on.
Oh, Big, you and I were talking, and we're like, Andalin left, it was just me and you, and I was like, I really want to have that third player, that third person. Who do you think we should have on? And you were the first person that he thought of. Right, Big?
Yes.
Oh, is that the truth? I mean, that warms my soul.
It legitimately is the truth. I was like, well, who we had on in the past that I really liked talking to? I was like, I really like Jake. He was cool. He's a cool guy. And so, it was my recommendation.
Yeah. And I totally agreed. It was a really good recommendation. So anyway, I don't know what else to say add on to that other than, hey, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you here. And obviously that's why we've moved on to this new time frame, because starting at 8 o'clock Eastern is just it was nice for you to sacrifice that one time as a guest, but I'd say regularly that's just not kosher for you.
It would be hard for me to do anything other than sleep, really. I don't think you'd want to see me sleeping on during the podcast. So I appreciate it, though. Obviously, the flexibility is welcome.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. I guess I'll start with you there, Jake. What have you been up to for the last 2 weeks?
Honestly, absolutely grinding this new patch. I'm
really
well. I suppose the pre-patch to the patch, because as a PvPer, it's sort of only care when the season comes out. But I found myself doing so much of the new zone and just really enjoying myself. In kind of those PvE dailies, just everything, just exploring the kind of stuff that I did more when I was a kid, playing early vanilla WoW, and it kind of felt like that to me a little bit. I was kind of more really intrigued for once, and definitely not put off by the color of of the zone like I was with Korthia. The beautiful new zone just feels I've just been grinding it pretty much.
Awesome. Yeah, I personally have really enjoyed the new zone as well. Big, though, how about you? Have you been enjoying the new zone? Or what have you been up to?
I really like the combination of sort of the grassy and sand aesthetic, the split aesthetics of the zone. And I think what Blizzard has done, I think with Korthia and with this new zone, is it's really fun to just walk around and just collect stuff. WoW, I think, is a collection-based game. We're all collecting something, whether it be pets or mounts or raiding or boss kills. I mean, I think inevitably WoW is a game where you just walk around and basically put stuff in your pocket. And so I think this new zone is a perfect, I like these little challenges of jumping on these little platforms to try to get the chests. Like those small little things kind of make the experience a bit more enjoyable than, hey, go out and kill 8 boars and come back with their hooves, So I think I've been really enjoying the zone, just from an aesthetic point of view and just kind of a pacing point of view. It's quite nice.
Indeed. I've found that it's still new, but I found with the Maw got really grindy really fast. It was a lot of repetition it felt like a lot of repetition of the same stuff. But I'll remind you, it was dangerous. I felt like when we went in there, I was a little scared for myself. And then Korthia had a lot of stuff to collect. It had a lot of stuff to do, but again, it kind of dragged on a little too long. I think the questing all got very repetitive, and I know with this one, it's still very new, but I don't feel anything is being repetitive yet. And there's a few times that I felt a little scared running around on my pally tank, but it's not been much, right? Versus, and I think maybe that's a little bit of a difference. As I feel more adventurous, I feel more prepared to be able to just run into that spot and try to get that chest that's up there on some fun jump aesthetic, or trying to figure out how I'm going to get that box from underneath some rocks or whatever.
You mean re-rolling to vent there?
Oh, I was so pissed. It's the one. It's just outside the front gates when you that main little spot in Zerith Mortis. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about with the big ball.
Yeah,
it's up there.
yeah.
And yeah.
It's actually gated for small characters. I
Yes.
did it first time on my orc, on my dwarf. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do the jumps. It's because of the pixels and everything. It's 100% unfair, gated against small characters. This is,
I can't agree with you because I was on my my Draenei Paladin, and he's a big guy, and I mean, once I learned I didn't have to jump in a couple spots because if I jumped, I like overshot. Once I figured that out, then I was pretty good. But I didn't. I can't agree that it's gated for small characters.
For some of those jumps, it feels like playing that game Fall Guys. Yeah, and you get to the last possible jump you need, and then you fall, and you're like, oh my god, like, oh, it's very rage inducing. But at least some people are nice enough to like leave, I don't know, demonic gateways and stuff to, if they're still around, to try to help people get up there. I think some people were doing that day one.
Yeah,
and you're a warlock. I think gateway is pretty broken when it comes to these little things.
If I was playing my warlock, yeah, but like I said, I was on my prop paladin, so not so lucky. So that goes back to the I think I'd fallen fourth time or missed a jump or whatever, and then along came a warlock and demonic gatewayed, and boom, was up there, and I was like, son of a
You can play Venthyr as a prop pally. That's totally fine. Just reroll it.
Yeah.
Just give in. Give in to sin.
No. Divine Toll is way too juicy to give up. No.
Very true.
Anyway, so I guess I'll iterate as well. I've been very much enjoying the new zone. I didn't do any of the grinds. I know a lot of people were grinding because it's BG week. So a lot of people were grinding the BGs, trying to max out their honor in preparation. Well, especially this last week. And then the week before that, it was the end of the season. So people were trying to grind out as much as they could to get the highest rating they could. I have to throw back to, let's start with you, Big. Did you do any last season grinding to try to get the highest rating you could? Try to push for that rank 1? Or did you just sit back and watch everybody else do it?
No, admittedly, I didn't really play for the second half of the season, but I enjoyed watching other people play. I think obviously the inflation kind of got a bit out of control. So, but I think that's kind of its own little mess. That is a longer topic of discussion. But no, it was interesting to watch the end of season games for sure. I think what really struck me is how good teams are these days. I think this, from a lot of people I've talked to, this was the most difficult season of WoW they've played, and I believe it. Like, there was a lot of things that kind of increased the difficulty, but I just had fun mostly watching other people play. And for me, that's totally fine.
Oh yeah. How about you, Jake? Did you try to push rating at the last?
To be honest, I just played really weird comps most of the second half. I just played weird comps. I played DK Boomy. I played Beast Cleave. I remember actually I was talking to a friend of mine who did end up doing he got his first time glad on Demon Hunter, and we were talking and we were like, you know what, we should play some DH Boomy. We should really play some DH Boomy. No one's played it in ages. Let's play it and have some fun. We chose the exact same week that everyone went, hold on, DH Boomy's really, really good. And then we were like, they're copying us. They must have seen something. Everyone's copying us. What's going on? So yeah, I just spent my entire time playing just very weird comps that I enjoyed, and that was enough for me, really, to be honest.
That's cool. I think that's really important though. Is find something you like to do and find a comp that works with it and play it and enjoy that, rather than trying to make something that's frustrating try to make it work, because then you just get more frustrated. So.
Yeah, it was a very triggering season for me personally. Like I think what Big said is 100% right. Like it was a very difficult season in general. So and I just ended up sort of like, it was just the fifth time in a row that a paladin one shot me, and I was just there's only so much one shotting of myself that I can take, and I think I just needed to calm down and enjoy myself again. So that's what I did.
That's cool. I noticed you're playing. You said you're playing Boomkin, which I found funny because that's what Swapsy did. I had him on last episode. We're talking about Shaman, and he's like, "Yeah, I've just been playing Boomkin this season." I was like,
Don't blame him.
yeah,
I don't
no.
blame him.
But
Ellie, I thought Ellie was going to be so good in the
Mhm.
beginning, and I just think sometimes you just need a bit of a dampening meta for Ellie to feel really, really strong, which is why I ended up playing a lot more Enhance, which felt godlike, and then Boomkin just because Kirin was so busted and just fun. But then I also found playing Death Knight was also really, really interesting, despite it being quite weak in certain things. So
Frost or Unholy?
Frost, just because Unholy rune regen was just really difficult to play. Whereas Frost has got like an inbuilt thing for regenerating runes, which makes it a lot more fun. Very scripted, kind of setup based stuff, but I really enjoyed that. So
Cool. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of excited to dust off my Frost DK and run with it. I only have so much time in a week though, so I was like, yeah, what do I do? Oh,
play Unholy.
I could do that. Actually, I want to just show. I tweeted about this, but I texted it. I don't know if anybody can see this. So my wife did this. She got herself a t-shirt making machine, and she made me a t-shirt that has Invincible on it, and it says "One day it will be mine,"
Oh,
which is her actually throwing shade at me because she actually has it. When she was playing, we were running ICC together, and we rolled for the Invincible, and she got it. And then since then, she stopped playing. Well, not immediately, but now she stopped playing it. So this is her kind of throwing shade on me. Is that this is about as close as she can get to giving me back Invincible, I guess. So
Wait, so you can just make a custom T-shirt anytime you want?
yeah, she has.
I gotta get myself one of these machines. I have some ideas.
I can see you triggering so many people on Twitter with all these ideas. I can just see it in my mind. I know it's just going to be you, like sort of like being all like fashion kind of style with this nice T-shirt that says sort of like RMP sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if these iron-ons work so well with 1970s polyester though, which is I think also what Big likes to wear a lot of the time. It seems from his pictures. I don't know. All right. On that note, let's get into our need, greed, and pass and see what I came up with this week to tantalize our brain boxes.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
That's probably one of my worst segment turnover. Oh boy. All right. Anyway, here we go. Need, greed, and pass. Yeah. So I got the scenario this week. So I'm going to throw this out to you guys. And again, listeners at home, listeners live right now, by all means, play along in chat or come on over to our Discord or tweet us, Twitter, whatever you want to do. But today's is we're going to talk about season 3 and being the first week. So imagine you're a PvPer. You just finished season 2. Let's say 1500 rating. So you have not bad gear, right? But you only have this first week. You only have 1 hour a day to play. If you miss a day, you can't make that time back anywhere. You just have that 1 hour a day. So do you spend your 1 hour a day doing the Zerith Mortis quests and running around and doing all the just playing around in the zone like we are just talking about? Do you spend your 1 hour doing rated PvP? So be that RBGs or arenas, whichever. Or do you spend that 1 hour doing unrated PvP and that includes the solo shuffle that just came out. So how are you going to spend your 1 hour a day? Again, running around Zerith Mortis, doing rated PvP, or doing the unrated PvP and solo shuffles? I'm going to throw it to you, Big.
Well, this is interesting because this question there's a different answer depending on if I want to give what I want to do and what I should be doing, like there's
Yeah.
I think if it's what I should be doing, should probably be questing in Zerith Mortis just so you hit that chapter 7 unlock the moment it's available. So that would be my need. And then I would greed on rated PvP, but what I want to do is the opposite of that. So if I had to balance it more towards what I thought was fun, I'd do rated PvP, and so that'd be my need, and then I'd quest in Zerith Mortis. That'd be my greed.
Okay. And you're going to completely pass on the solo shuffle and the unrated PvP. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah,
That's what these are supposed to be.
it's a stinger.
How about you there, Jake?
Okay, so I 100% agree with Big that if I was playing it the way that it should be, or rather, if I was doing it what I have to do, then it would be need, quest, and Zerith Mortis, greed, rated PvP, and then pass unrated PvP, only because of the fact that that just because you need double legendary. I want to stay competitive. But if I had the actual choice and it was just do whatever you like, no matter what, I think I would do rated PvP, unrated PvP. So like rated need, unrated greed, and then just totally pass on questing, because if in an ideal world, I wouldn't have to.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mhm.
Yeah. I have to admit that's kind of why I brought this up, is because there's always that duality in your brain of like, what do I need to do versus what do I want to do? And sometimes the fun thing you want to do, you can't do because you feel like you need to do this other thing. So
Totally. Yeah.
So I'll be honest, since this is only within that 1 week window, I was going to need on the unrated PvP and the solo shuffle, because that just looks super fun, and I feel like right now is a really good time to get into doing that, and yeah, grind out some honor and whatnot, but just go in there and enjoy it, because I'm afraid that in a few weeks the solo shuffle the participation is going to drop. So right now I'm sure queues are pretty good, but I'm not so sure it's going to be really good in a few weeks. So I figure I'd hit that wave high right now. So that's going to be my need. And then my greed was going to be questing the Zerith Mortis, because double Lego, it needs to get done. And then because I figured, rated PvP first week of the season would be kind of fun. Probably run into some notable players, because everybody's at reset rating and all that. So I thought that'd be kind of fun. But personally, if I had a choice, I ended up having to pass on that, because need greed on the other two. So those are mine. But yeah, interesting. It's interesting how there's that duality, though. I like that. Well, once again, if you are listening at home or in your car, don't text us right now because you're driving. Stop pull over to the side of the road, by all means. Hop on over to the Discord, or like I said, Twitter us and let us know what your need, greed, and pass are. But while you're doing that, we're going to talk about some upcoming WoW PvP events. As soon as I can find the bumper. Oh, there it is.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
Yeah, get in there and fight. Dang it. All right. Upcoming WoW PvP events. So, as always, Dalaran Gaming's doing his 5v5 1v1s. Those are always fun to watch. I got wind of this one, only because they also asked me to administrate it. But G Fuel is going to be sponsoring another RBG tournament through Matcherino. So that's going to be on the 2nd and 3rd of April. It's going to be 6 teams. We're going to select team captains, and then those captains are going to pick up their players. So it's going to be NA only. Sorry, EU folks. Sorry, Jake. I know.
Devastated.
If only they could figure out a way to reduce that latency between EU and NA.
If only G Fuel would come and sponsor me to host this RPG tournament too.
We should.
They just they need to pour some G Fuel in those internet pipes. They'll get the connections going faster. Just get some caffeine in there.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. So that's gonna be, like I said, the 2nd and the 3rd. It's gonna be 10v10. More details are going to be forthcoming once it's officially announced, and once we get some teams in there. So there's that. As always, as we've mentioned before, there's the official Season 3 Blizzard Esports events. So the cat has passed, so we'll talk about that later in the news. But upcoming here, starting on the 18th, is going to be the first cup for the AWC, and then it's going to be each weekend following that for the 2, 3, and 4. Pardon me. And then in the meantime, the MDI time trials are going to be happening. So make sure if you want to do the MDI as well, sign up over there. And once they figure out the cups, the groups, the cups for those are going to start on the 15th of April. And following up all that, we're going to see the Last Stand tournament, which is always a fun go. And well, actually, that's part of the MDI really, but it's always it's like the last hurrah of teams trying to get into the grand finals, and that's going to be in May. So that's all we know right now for official stuff. Again, if anybody knows of any community events, please let us know so we can shout you out and try to hype it up. In the meantime, while you guys are trying to figure out some other, maybe get some events going for us, I think we should get into the subjective analysis and actually talk about, the season 3.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right. I'm kind of glad that events was really short because, man, there's a lot of information for season 3, right?
Yeah.
It's only been a week. 9.2's been out for a week. They're still making hot fixes. I think I saw some data mining was announced yesterday for PvP tuning for the tier sets, but only a few of them.
Yeah. I think like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. 2 hunter specs, 3 of the healers, fire mages, and one other one I can't remember now. Oh, we'll get to it in a bit. But I guess so. First and foremost, out of 9.2, what's the content you guys are most excited for? Actually, I'm going to throw it to you first, Big.
I might catch some slack for this, but I like all these new trinkets. I know sometimes people who are hyper competitive, they tend to not like anything that could potentially disrupt game balance that's not class design. And I think these trinkets are really, really interesting. And I think what I'm looking forward to is just how some of them will change the meta. Mm-hmm. And I think I didn't play BFA Season 4, but I thought BFA Season 4 was crazy because it was all these little extra parts of the game that typically weren't in PvP, influencing the way the game was played. Like I know the spiteful trinkets, for instance. Mm-hmm. It was just this weird new interaction, a weird new way to play, and I thought it was really interesting, just from an onlooker point of view. And so I'm really excited to see how the season will pan out with all these new things being added to the game. I think fundamentally the game is changing quite a bit, as it usually does in the final season or the final, patch. And well, I don't know if this is the final patch. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, or whatnot. But in any case, I think it's nice that the game is probably fundamentally changing. So I'm excited for that overall.
Okay, so let's look into that. So there's the Devouring Malediction, which is one that drains absorbs from nearby enemies and then unleashes it. There's the Eternal Aegis. Activates the defenses, absorbing 50% of all damage taken up to 13k, almost 14k for 1 minute.
Wowhead tooltips are weird. They're not really accurate, but yeah.
Okay. Right, maybe I have that. Oh, I guess, sorry. Yeah, it's 9.6k plus some amount of your versatility. So
yeah, it's confusing.
And then the Cosmic Gladiator Resonator, which is the one that throws the resonate. That's the grenade that throws cosmic damage grenade. So which one of those are you most excited about then? Like, which one do you think is really going to change them? Are you thinking all 3 are going to change the meta, or are you thinking one specifically? Are you really thinking about?
Well, I was referring more to there's a new CC related trinket that I think is going to change the meta a lot. But of those 3, I think the grenade one is going to be really fun to play just in general. I think the Malediction trinket, which basically takes away absorb. I think that was a direct response to Fleshcraft. I think that trinket is
Mhm.
specifically in the game to help deal with the prevalence of Necrolord, because it's obviously a really popular covenant right now.
Mhm.
The Aegis one I don't really care about. It's tank trinket. People tend to not like tank trinkets. I typically agree with that sentiment. But no, there's geez, a
I
CC
think.
one that I don't remember its name.
Well,
Gee.
so there's the sigil of adaptation, which
Mm-hmm.
is adaptation now in a trinket. There's the brooch, with the relentless
Mm-hmm.
brooch, which is your 20% reduced. Uh, there's your medallion, which we always have. Then, I'm not sure which one else you're.
It's a echoing resolve. So it's the Cosmic
Oh,
Gladiator's echoing resolve, which I think will be the biggest gameplay change in Arena in recent history. I think that trinket will specifically affect gameplay more than people could possibly understand. But I could be completely wrong. Um, it's just from my point of view, this trinket is really game breaking. And for those who are listening, what the trinket does is it increases the duration of CC effects that you take by 20%, which seems really bad. But the second effect is that every time you take a CC effect, you're immune to the next one. So, well, immune for 15 seconds. So
mhm.
imagine a rogue cheap shots you. That cheap shot's going to be 20 seconds or 20% longer. Not 20 seconds longer, but 20% longer. But you're going to be immune to the next CC within 15 seconds. So it kind of changes how a lot of interactions work in PvP. A lot of the
Mhm.
game is sort of right now designed around these CC combos, right? The Dragon's Breath Sheep, the Intimidation Freezing Trap. There's a lot of ways in which CC is chained together, and this trinket is specifically designed to make CC combos a bit more difficult. And I think it's something that players are really going to have to learn to play around. I think that's going to be a difficulty early on to the season, as people are going to be navigating how to use this trinket, when to use it, what comps it's good against, and all these sort of interactions. And I think that's going to be really, really interesting early on. And I wouldn't be surprised if that trinket gets nerfed or changed, because it's just so fundamentally game breaking, at least on paper.
I feel like that's like a setup comp counter, that sort of trinket. Like it feels I don't know, it feels that's what it feels like to me. Like I wouldn't play it into like a Zug cleave.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really confusing because if you're playing against RMP, that means you're susceptible to long kidney shots. So it kind of has a weird risk reward, where you can play it. It's going to make follow up CC more difficult to land, but then suddenly against RMP, you're taking a kidney shot that's 20% longer. And the increased CC of durations can be reduced a bit through the Sephu's legendary and from the Orc um, trinket. Or, I'm sorry, the Orc
Racial.
passive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think humans will be playing this trinket, orcs will be playing this trinket, and I think it's just going to be very weird. It's going to lead to some very awkward gameplay.
I agree with you that it's just going to make the meta so interesting, that especially. And then obviously I don't like tank trinkets either, but the idea that kind of big risk reward is sort of kind of what you mentioned with BFA, with the idea that there's just something so interesting about the ideas coming through from Blizzard. And you know what, some of them might not stick and some of them might be awful, but at least like there's a bit of innovation there, and this is an interesting one, giving
Mhm.
players, as you say, the option to choose whether or not, okay, I'll take a bit more of, I'll take the longer kidney here, but that will stop the, that sort of super DR cheap shot that kind of wrecks me when I try and heal myself out of the go kind of thing. Maybe it
Yeah.
punishes stuff a bit more. I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure.
Hmm. I like this. I never thought about how that would interact with things like Cephus and Orc though. So like where you're taking 20% more, but then you're also reducing. So essentially, you're taking zero difference in time, but you're automatically negating the next CC. I can definitely see this being
Yeah.
very strong for a healer though, right? Because
Yeah,
then
for like holy priests, because they already have holy ward. So they're
yeah,
gonna have holy priests have greater fade, holy ward, and now this trinket to avoid CC. I think it's gonna be absolutely impossible to CC like a good holy priest. reliably. You know, you can kind of cheese your way into getting a CC combo, but you're gonna have to do some crafty plays, in order to avoid getting outplayed yourself.
Do you think they'll nerf it by instead of it being like a flat 15 seconds, they'll say it's like a consume thing. So like the next CC within 15 seconds just consume some sort of buff. Like
I think they'll put some sort of internal cooldown on it, because right now, from my understanding, it just procs continuously. Like every other CC is immune. So I assume they're going to put some sort of internal clock that it doesn't constantly proc if you're just taking CC after CC after CC. Because it's plus, I didn't even think about this, and I just thought about this right now. Like, how does this interact with diminishing returns? Like, that's another thing you kind of have to consider, is how are you going to decide whether or not to use this trinket based around diminishing returns? There's so much complicated math that goes into like decision making when this trinket is equipped, that I just think it's like, on paper, right? I feel like a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, wow, this is going to fundamentally change the world of Warcraft.
Well, I love that. But I like that because it stops. You can't. The double clone is automatically negated. The DB sheep, the sheep is negated. That whole 1, 2, 3 go of RMP is completely janked by this. By the fact that the as I said, the healer just will be able to then pop out and be able to pop some coolies and heal, unless you assume the fact that that once so let's say you have your priest gets DB'd, so then the rogue will have to do some sort of CC, if let's say the priest pops their trinket to pop out, waste a CC, and then the mage will be able to go into the sheep.
Yeah, alternatively, so you can get rid of the buff by just using an interrupt. So the interrupt doesn't even have to land. So the trinket also makes you immune to interrupts for its duration. But I think you can just throw a counter spell and just get rid of the buff. But that means the mage has to waste their counter spell. All the calculations are weird. You know, it's
I like it.
I like it too. I think it's very fun, and I think it's very frustrating and very fun, and I think that's sometimes, oddly enough, good design, or maybe it's bad design. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it's
copium, pretty much, or hopium, I suppose. For me, it's sort of, I'm in my head as you were talking there. All I could hear was like just Holy Priest, Ret Warrior, where the super long stun on the Holy Priest gets sanked, and then there's freedom on this, and that like you go to Breath Sheep, the warrior and the ret, and they're immune to CC for a second, for like the second, so you can't even like sheep one or ring the other. Like it's just, I'm just imagining the most horrifying scenes where just everyone is just run down by this unstoppable sort of mess. Especially as in my experience recently in 9.2, obviously the season hasn't technically started for EU yet. It's the healing. I've faced rep paladins that out heal healers at the minute. I thought that was all going to get properly nerfed, and same with enhance. I don't know. It sounds like it's just unstoppable, maybe. But so I definitely think there'll be some sort of internal cooldown for sure.
I think there should be, but oh man, I'm just trying to think. So because I think the other thing about that is, you could easily like take the 20%, but then if you trinket out, or racial out, if you have the racial, then you still have that immunity as well, right? So that's also that is also like a 5-head conversation. You have to decide, do you want to use your racial or your trinket to get out of that, or do you want to sit the full duration knowing the next CC isn't going to land anyways?
I think this trinket was trying to address one problem that I think is part of game design in Shadowlands, and probably even previous expansions, is that there's so much little micro CCs that hit you in WoW. So back, us boomers, right? Like back in our day, there weren't as many CCs, there weren't as many stuns, but now like every class pretty much has a stun, and even right now, like Tauren is considered one of the best races because War Stomp, and it's like
Mhm.
people are using War Stomp as a 1 second or even half-second stun just because burst is so high that sometimes that's all it takes, right? And
Oh,
so I
yeah.
think the trinket was meant to address the abundance of micro CCs in the game, like incapacitating roar, for instance, from druids. I mean, that's just like an example of a micro CC. It's very rarely used as like crowd control. It's more so used as just like, I'm going to annoy you. I'm going to stop your cast with this. And so I think this trinket was put in the game to make those sort of interactions less frequent, but I think it's going to have all these unintended consequences of just creating a mess, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah. To be fair, though, that Kyrian stun is not fun when they're like 20% HP and you're just stuck there for 3 seconds and it doesn't DR with anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it was a very popular meme a few expansions. It was in Cataclysm, I think, or Mists of Pandaria, I don't remember. People used to say, I can't control my character. That was kind of the meme thing people used to say, is they just eat so much CC
Mhm.
and it felt like you couldn't control your character. But now it's like that on steroids. There's like a million, like that Kyrian stun is a perfect example. It's like, that's just a micro CC that doesn't really have any purpose in the game other than to be annoying. I mean, of course, it has a defensive purpose, but it's just more of an annoyance than anything else. And so, yeah, I think those interactions are kind of might need some monitoring for class and game design for future expansions for sure. But I think this is just the cards we're dealt with is we need trinkets like this to minimize those interactions.
Do either
Yeah.
of you guys watch the WoW highlights or the WoW daily channels on YouTube?
Occasionally.
Yeah,
Occasionally.
There's one I remember where there was a clock that came up and it showed they CC'd a person. I think it's the first person. The character, they were in CC for 24 seconds total in an arena, just sitting in CC.
In retail.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, that is 100% possible when you play with like something like Boomkin DH and stuff like that, because
exactly what it was. Yeah.
Because was that exactly what it was?
No, sorry, I can't remember if that was exactly like that case, but yeah, just saying like that's exactly an example of like
just
why
because
this
root
would
beam.
happen. Yeah,
root beam it counts as a long CC. You can do that into all manners of horrible things. So
yeah, you got the Nova, you got the Incap, you got the all that stuff. Yeah, there's another one. It was in a twos, but they had the Warrior. The Warrior just sat the whole twos game while his partner died, and it was clone, root. I think something else. I think that his partner did did something, and then clone came off DR. So clone, root.
that warrior deserved it. I no sympathy for that warrior. I don't even know who this warrior is, but it's well deserved.
It was pretty funny. I think it was Trill Barton. Barton was playing that one. Hey, all right. To you, Jake, what's one thing you're excited about? 9.2 season 3.
To be honest, for me, I think that one of the things I'm excited about is just the interactions of tier sets in PvP and how they're going to work, and seeing which classes really benefit from them, which don't. Because I think from the outset, you can have a look at every single tier set and be like, okay, this is really good. This is really good. But then you can also kind of go, okay, until this class gets a tier set, it's not godlike. It's in the same way that in the beginning of season 2, everything felt so different in comparison to how it felt by the end, because by the end you'd got certain things or you figured certain things out that just weren't even a thought in the first season. Like, for example, Demon Hunters being good in general. They were considered trash and remain so. The only thing they were good for was certain things on RBGs and the occasional just very good like hunt mechanics. But even Tren wasn't even playing sort of Necrolord at that point, and then just suddenly out of nowhere there was a couple of rumors here and there, and people tried a few things, and they suddenly discovered this holy grail of damage that came out.
Yeah,
and I'm interested in that. I always like watching PvP seasons and seeing how things evolve throughout the season, especially because we won't have access to the tier sets, and the meta will be completely different from what it will be at the start versus when we get that. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay. Is there one set in particular that you're really excited for?
Yeah, it's just the elemental shaman set.
Of
No,
course.
for no reason other than that's what I play. But
Yeah.
I am excited for that. I'm actually very excited for the enhanced one as well, because I mean, obviously these are classes I play, so I'm obviously excited for that. And obviously with the enhancement buffs, especially to their conduits, and the conduits for enhancement were nuts anyway.
Yeah.
And this 29% nerf, the healing surge that came out, has done nothing. I'm still crit healing myself for 31k. So whether or not those numbers stay when we've got more gear, who knows? Whether they'll balance out is a different thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what intrigues me. Sort of like at the moment, enhanced feels super strong. But where will it be by the end when everyone's got their tier system all like fully geared? Who knows? But I have a feeling that the meta might start moving into something that's a bit slower, and that's where I think Elemental Shaman tends to have that feeling. At least the way that I like to play it. Like I prefer the Necrolord build rather than Vesper Totem, which was all one shot. So we'll see. Basically, we'll see what works out. And that's the thing. I'm just excited to see those interactions and whether it forces me down a different covenant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to admit, again, rolling back to the conversation we had last episode with Swapsy, the way he described the elemental set, it sounds pretty godlike. Like it's just going to be, it's going to be absolutely nuts.
It could even bring back my favorite legendary from them, which is Wind Speakers, because that was like use Earth Shock, consume that Earth Shock into an instant Lava Surge, which is obviously your instant cast Lava Burst, but that's buffed by 20%. Now with your Fire Alley out, your Lava Burst already buffed by another 20%. That means your Lava Burst is buffed by 40%, technically, in theory. So would you then change up whether you're using Echoing Shock, which is that ability that repeats the previous damaging ability or healing, whether you use that with this 40% buff lava burst, or whether you still use it with Earth Shock, whether you'd go more crit or more haste. Kind of, there's so much involved and so much like just choice really, on top of the fact that you could also play Vesper Totem double legendary with Elemental Equilibrium for the big damage. It's just, you're spoiled for choice really. So I'm actually so sad that I missed the episode with Swapsy. That would have been the most amazing thing ever. I could have fangirled a little bit.
No worries. Hey, you can always go back and listen to it.
You can do, exactly. And where can listeners go back and
on your app of choice, of course. Or over on Spotify or iTunes or any other place you want to. Just look up Technically PvP. Give it a Google. You'll find us. Exactly. Okay. How about you, Big? What's a set that you're looking forward to? Or are you even looking forward to them? I guess.
Since I play the Wrestle Druid one is kind of interesting. I think the 4 set will be kind of fun. It gives you a tree form proc every third Swift Bend. So I like playing tree form. It's just fun. It's fun to just turn into that randomly. I think one problem though is that some of the classes that were already strong have really good tier sets. Fire Mage being the most obvious example. I know they nerfed that, or they gave it a PvP specific multiplier today.
Yeah, it's a 0.6.
But Fire Mages have an absurdly strong one. Windwalker Monks have a very strong 4 set. And so, my worry is that any sort of class disparities will be amplified by these tier sets. Affliction Warlock is the perfect example. From my understanding, they have a useless tier set. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to tier sets because I like the idea. I don't want to say lore-wise, but I guess lore-wise, of having tier sets. I think that is something that should have been introduced to the game much earlier than this. I think, in general, having these flavorful items that change the way your character is played are always really fun. And, as Jake was saying, the meta is going to be changing on a week-to-week basis. So when people get their legendary belts on week 5, that's going to be a huge meta change. When people start getting their 2 set, that's going to change. When people get their 4 set, game balance will be different. And so I'm kind of looking forward to these, I guess, crescendos of class balance that we're going to experience early on into the season, because I think that's when honestly WoW's the most fun, when it's pure chaos. I just like that sort of experimental phase that you tend to have at the beginning of the expansion, and I think getting that in the middle or the end is kind of a treat. It's like usually by that time in the expansion the game is already kind of figured out, but right now I think we're going to enter into an exploration phase that we typically only get with the beginning of expansion, so I'm really looking forward to that.
I will counter the part I don't like is that this is RNG. So while Jake might get his 2 set in week 2 because that just happens to be how RNG works out, you might be waiting until like week 20 before you get your 2 set.
Well, there is the creation catalyst system, which I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Yeah.
You'll be able to convert any season 3 gear into a tier piece, but I don't know. It was very unclear to me if they maintain their secondary stats or not. I don't really know exactly how the system works. No one seemed to really know on the PTR. So with that system, though, will help that sort of RNG element, because you'll be able to convert your season 3 gear into a tier piece, assuming you've acquired the season 3 piece. So that's kind of a workaround to that RNG. And so that's a nice system.
That's true. I'm sure the cost for that is supposed to be pretty high.
And it's supposed to have a cooldown.
Yeah.
Is it Cosmic Flux? Do you know? Because if it is, that's
yes,
good.
It is. Yeah, it's Cosmic Flux.
Because you get that from Arena, so that's like a big thing.
You get that from Arena, you get that from Mythic Pluses, you get it from raiding, you get it from just stepping on flowers. No, not stepping on flowers, but yeah, I mean, like it's everywhere, man.
Blizzard will mail some to your house if you want.
Wait, hold on. I gotta get on Amazon for a second. I need some more Cosmic Flux.
Jeez, don't give them it yet.
Can you imagine?
Get the authenticator and get 1,000 Cosmic Flux.
Oh god, yeah. They'd finally get everybody to sign on to that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I want to say I thought that they talked about it. So I'm trying to find. I can't find the link for it. So I remember with the catalyst there. So yeah, you're supposed to be able to turn any piece of gear into. I thought it was into a legendary. I wasn't sure it was into a tier piece.
No, it's to a token. Yeah, it's to a tier piece. Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember it's something like if a piece has a gem slot, then the gem slot will move over. And it's supposed to keep some. It says it's supposed to keep the stats, but I think it's only primary. Because my understanding is if you convert it over, or maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But I remember it was something like somebody was saying how the versatility doesn't convert over. So, yeah. And I think that's one thing with the tier sets. My understanding is that they're all fixed stat weights. So, or they're fixed stats, period. So, obviously, if you have mythic level, it has a few more stats than if you're doing LFR. But the stats on those themselves are actually lower than any of the other gear as well. So that I think that's kind of cool, is that does have a person where they're like, well, I don't know, like do I want more versatility, or am I okay with switching over this piece to a tier set? And they have to have that kind of conversation in their head as, survivability versus utility and whatnot. Chat seeing the Death Knight set looks absolutely amazing. I'm not sure if they mean just aesthetically, because I mean some of these look really good. Like I'm gonna farm some of these, not gonna lie, just for the transmog. They look pretty good, but I'm not sure if it's that or if they're talking the actual abilities on those. I think hold on. So I'm gonna skip over the blood. So the frost looks really good, because then your remorseless winter, which you're always pumping, gives 8% more crit, and then every time you have a killing machine, when you consume it, which you do almost immediately. It throws a glacial advance at it. So that's going to make Frost sound pretty fun.
It's hard with that one because there's a chance, like obviously Killing Machine is your big obliterate damage, which you'll do with when you press when you use pillar. I think the 2-set bonus is really nice. The crit chance or crit strike damage, I suppose. I don't know whether it's crit chance or crit strike, like actual damage. But that will be good for just general damage.
Strike. I'm not sure.
Is that damage? I imagine that is.
I thought it was crit strike chance.
Yeah, maybe it is. Well, I mean, you're guaranteed crit anyway, so I don't know whether I'll benefit it regardless. But Glacial Advance going through, I think that's really good cleave, which is good for like a lot of, I think for maybe TSU. But there's a chance it might like break a few bits of CC, so you need to be careful with that. I think that was always the one that was kind of scary with a lot of these tier sets is when they can break CC just from general like.
Oh yeah.
Ability. Yeah, I think the sub rogue one does some sort of AoE. And I think you're not supposed to use one of the sub-rogue tier sets, presumably, since it has some sort of AoE attached to it.
But the Unholy 4-set bonus is really big just because of all the buffs that's happened.
Yeah,
and also, the 5 increase. I mean, it depends really what you go for, because I was speaking to one of the rank 1 DKs from EU, Bobby DK, and we were talking about Unholy versus Frost, because obviously I've played a lot of DK as well, and I think the big thing there is what legendary you go up, what setup, because obviously everyone's going to be Necrolord because Abomination Limb has been buffed and it hits like a truck at the minute. But whether you go for the big pet one, knowing full well that your pet might just set a load of CC like Roots, Frost Novas, etc., like that, because it can't really get out of that without a Dispel, or you go for the big consistent Death Coil damage, so this is the kind of the throw up you've got here, because the 4-set bonus goes so well, especially when you've got multiple Soul Reapers going through someone, and when that increases, that bonus damage goes up to 25%. For 8 seconds, which is massive. That's huge. And if you time that up well with a go, then when you activate your pet for that big damage, and you've got a Fallen Crusader proc at the same time where your strength is hugely increased, then there's a chance that you'll just end up, everything will just start hitting like a truck. So
yeah, and then people are going to go on the forums, and then we'll hear about it.
I don't know if he'll have Demon Hunter levels of consistent damage, but we'll find out soon, I guess.
We'll find out. Yeah, so you're right though on the sub rogue. That one doesn't work just because your finishing moves have a 3% chance per combo point to cast Shadow Strike on at up to 5 enemies within 15 yards. Which so I mean that'd be good for RBGs. Like some of these are really good for RBGs as well. Like there's a huge amount of damage there.
Well, the Resta Shaman one is all tied in with Chain Heal. So every time, I think the four piece for Resta Shaman is every time you lay a totem, you instantly cast a Chain Heal, and your 2-piece also interacts with Chain Heal. And so, I mean, obviously you don't really care about Chain Heal too much in Arena, although when you drop a totem and you have an insta-cast heal, that's amazing. But in RBGs, I think it's going to be like nuts. Some of these are just the benefit might not be obvious in Arena, but in RBGs, of course.
Yeah, I think the Bresto Shaman, that one has a slight nerf to it. Yeah, it's a 0.6 multiplier on that on the chain heal. So,
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think what was the one that I liked? I think it was the Boomkin. It was the where was it?
The Star Surge cost.
Well, it's not just that. Even the 2-piece, the baby Fury of Elune. Yeah, 25 for. Like, I can just imagine somebody blowing a CD on a baby Elune, and then you can follow up right after that when their wall drops or whatever with the big Elune.
Well,
Sorry, you go. I was gonna say with the boomkin interaction, you just get star surges continuously. You just have so much astral power. You just have to spend it.
Yep.
Like with the boomkin one. It was really fun to play with that on the PTR. I was just having a blast with the boomkin
Quite
one.
literally.
Yes, quite literally.
Yeah, that's just because it reduces the cost of the Star Surge, so you can just like
Yeah, you
crank
just get a
those out.
full astral. Yeah, you get 8 in a row. I think when I was testing.
Just play. I mean, Kiri Boomy is still pretty good, regardless of the kind of nerf situation. So you just play like Kiri Boomy with the Star Surge main legendary, and then your Kyrian like belt legendary, and then you just with the tier set bonuses, it's just just the damage output. You actually become like a damage dealer as opposed to the damage assister, which is what you've been in the last sort of half of the second season, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to run through. I'm just saying. I don't want to run through all of these individually. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really popped out in my mind when I was looking at it. I know the Windwalker looked pretty fun, where the 2 set increases your Fist of Fury damage by 40%, and the 4 set, after 10 offensive abilities, your next 3 deal an additional 22%. Which I mean, I can only imagine what the RSKs will look like after that.
Yeah, bit too much.
It's just a big. I just don't understand like why they've just used such big numbers. It just doesn't make sense. Just someone just went and just like splodged them sort of like
Yeah.
just big numbers. Everyone else is sort of like like 15%, 3% stacking up here, and then there's suddenly like Fist of Fury damage 40%, and then 22% extra damage for your next 3 offensive abilities. It's sort of like you can time your burst up with that so easily.
I haven't really been following the conversation on the race to world first front, but I'm assuming tier sets are gonna make or break the world first runs. If you get your set on a class that sees a massive DPS increase from it, I think that's gonna be, partially what determines parses. I mean, again, I haven't been following that conversation too closely, but I imagine that's been something that has been discussed.
I'm seeing that they're offering some of the Race to World First guilds are offering 10 million gold for tokens.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I watched Max's tier lists today, and both on classes and on the tier sets. Now, the tier sets was really interesting because for Windwalker Monk, he got Trill in. And Trill was like, Max was like, well, what do you think? What do you think of the Windwalker tier set? And he was like, meh, it's garbage. And it's just like, it was just sort of like, there was nothing in it. I'm just like,
really?
It's the sort of, maybe it wasn't like total garbage, but it was definitely meh. It wasn't good in his eyes. And for me, it's sort of like, it's interesting seeing that because there is quite clearly a disparity between PvE and PvP in that regard and the way that we view the tier sets versus they do, which is why I was kind of hoping that we'd see sort of like separate PvP tier sets because that just would have made more sense to me. They could have done them like the old school. They honestly, they could have carbon copied the TBC ones from TBC, obviously original TBC and TBC Classic, and I would have been happy because there are some, even something small like that, which was like a bit extra resilience, maybe a bit more, maybe not the versus situation, but maybe like a different like tier set thing that was kind of like a very like weak 2 set bonus one, and then a kind of slightly stronger tier, 4 set one. That would have been perfectly fine. Doesn't have to be too game changing, I suppose, but something that like did it like that, so like it felt better. And then maybe if there was something that was interesting there for PvP, it could be used in PvE. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that maybe is the line, but it's just interesting to me, just that disparity in general between what he may think it is for PvP versus in PvE. So
Yeah.
So was he saying that it's meh for PvE or it's meh for PvP?
PvE. They were talking about the raid in general.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in the same way that I listened to the. I think someone was talking about. Obviously, I listened to. I happened to click on the troll one. I was more interested in the shaman stuff, obviously.
Of course.
And there was a guy that literally the elemental segment of the video is like this small. There's like loads on hunter, loads on healers, loads on all the other classes, and then this tiny little one on elemental shaman. And it was like, yeah, what do you think about the elemental shaman one? And it was just some guy I didn't recognize him personally, and he was like, yeah, so pretty straightforward. You have to use a non-fun build. It's strong, but it's non-fun, and that was it. And that was the whole conversation on that
Wow.
bit. So, which feels like the opposite for me for PvP.
Yeah. It sounds like it's amazing for PvP. I say, while the affliction one sounds meh, only because it just like Malefic Rapture increase the duration of some of your dots. Okay, by a bit, and then what's the next one? Oh, yeah, when you have all your dots up, your Drain Soul or your Shadow Bolt have a chance to make your next Malefic Rapture cost nothing and instacast. So I mean that's kind of cool. It kind of changes up your rotation a little bit. But I mean the Demo one and the Destro one sounded super fun.
Yeah, the Destro one seemed fun.
Yeah,
Destro seems scary. I'm scared. I'm really scared of this Destro one because I have BFA Season 4 PTSD, and that I just can't get rid of that. I'm talking to some of the warlocks I know on EU, and I was obviously I want to play Lock Shaman Druid so badly this season, and I'm just sitting there kind of rubbing my hands, going like, if I'm gonna have to face these Destro locks, I might as well join them. But it's gonna come. There's gonna be a Destro revolution, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, we were talking that with Roxy Bolts. He was a former Destro turned Affliction, and now he's looking at switching back to Destro for this season because he's like, this is gonna be fun. Between this and I can only imagine what that's like with some double legendary interaction. I don't know what the theory crafting is on that, but I'm just imagining it'd probably be pretty good. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Let's try it. All right, so I think actually speaking of double Legos, so neat one on this one. Some people thought that they could pre-advance or like shave some time off on when we can get the double Lego, but apparently that's not the case. Like, hey, if you spent all first week running around farming every little ounce of whatever you could out of killing all the rares and finding everything, kudos to you for having the time and energy to do that. To anybody, I unfortunately that doesn't mean you're going to be that much further ahead in getting the double Lego. Everybody gets it unlocked so long as you have Revered, Enlightened Reputation, and you finish Chapter 7, which is going to be oh shoot, I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's the 4th week, or is it the 5th week?
5th.
The 5th week?
Believe.
Okay. So I mean, just long as you do the storyline and you do enough of the dailies to make sure you have Revered Enlightened or Revered Rep by that 5th week, you're good to go. You're gonna get the belt. You're good. Everything else is, I'm sure there's some people running around right now with almost maxed out tree on the little robot doodad and whatnot. I guess. So we're talking earlier about how this these raid tiers and how the tier sets is going to cause these crescendos and changes in the meta. What are you guys expecting for week 5 when we get double Legos? What are you guys expecting? Another massive shift where there's going to be a huge momentum swing in certain areas, or is it just going to be the similar where you're going to get these? There's going to be like some rise, some slight changes, maybe some tuning, maybe not, probably not. And then people will figure it out, and then the ladder will sort itself out. Or what do you guys think? Jake, I'm going to throw you first this one.
I think the classes that benefit the most from the double legendary are really, really strong. So I don't think there'll be too much of a change. What will be interesting to see is those sort of like maybe the off the cuff, maybe the off meta, some classes that do actually benefit massively from having 2 legendaries, maybe like Vesper Totem, Elemental Shaman, something like that, where you kind of like it works really well and just might be quite niche. That's my opinion on it. I don't think too many things will change because just most of the classes that were just strong in the first place are going to be strong because of what they are, right? And the second legendary doesn't really change things; it just makes them even stronger. So maybe the gap will appear bigger, especially for some classes.
Yeah, I think I just add. I think any class that's already using a Covenant Legendary is getting kind of a passive buff. For instance, Sub Rogues are using a Covenant Legendary right now with the Echoing Reprimand one. So I think any class that is using their current Covenant Legendary is going to see a massive damage increase. That's more noticeable. I think Rogues are the most extreme example because their Covenant Legos, I think, are pretty good for every spec. Even I think Night Fae Rogue might actually be somewhat popular. Their Covenant Legendary is insane. And so I'm just looking for those classes specifically. And I think, Vesper Totem Elemental Shamans are going to be another one too, right? So those sorts of classes. And ironically, as Jake said, those are already good. So
Yeah.
and they're just going to be even better.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, it sounds like Ellie Shaman, we're going to get between the tier sets and the double Lego, that's going to really improve. So we're going to see Ellie's come back. I guess, are we going to see any, do you guys know of any classes that are going to become strong with this, where where they were kind of meh before and then now find their spots? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I haven't, I don't know if either of you guys done enough research on that or seen anybody talking about that stuff.
Destro probably was the one that jumped out the most for me.
Oh yeah, because if you're Destro right now, you're Necrolord probably. And the Necro, you have to use the Necrolord legendary. I think it's just, well, you don't have to, but it's really good. So yeah, probably Destro. That's a perfect example.
And I'm feeling as well. And this might be a left field one to say, but Kyrian Boomkin with Night Fae Destro Warlock, where you get the haste buff from the Kyrian stuff. And I think that gets increased with your. I don't know. That might be interesting.
People were saying that they think Kyrian Boomy is going to be bad now since they nerfed the legendary, but I don't think so. I think like the nerf was necessary because stat values obviously just get higher and higher as the expansion goes on. So they would have had to nerf the stat values eventually, so it just wouldn't get completely overboard. So I think that the Kyrian one's going to balance out just as people get more stats on their gear. And the mastery value even went up, which again is to reflect increasing stats. So you can play Necrolord Boomy with Kyrian Boomy with a Necrolord partner, and they get more mastery now. I think. I'm not sure. The last time I checked. So I think, that legendary is still fine. Kyrian Boomy's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah, and also my versatility still goes over 40% when I'm playing the Kyrian Boomy. When you pair up with a Necrolord. So it's like I think your tankiness doesn't, I suppose it's your partner's tankiness that sort of is diminished in that regard, but it still hits like a truck and it still benefits them in some way, which is why I think like an interesting combination. What I always enjoyed about the legendary was the combinations you could do technically with different Covenant partners, and maybe something like a Kyrian Boomy Night Fae Destrolock will be interesting because on the go, suddenly this Destrolock is pumping out those Chaos Bolts, which are super omega buffed and also in the way that Infernals come flying out of the sky now as well.
Yeah.
And there is no internal DR on Infernal Stun. So it's quite easy for you to get an RNG proc Infernal Stun, drop another Infernal Stun for another stun. I'm saying stun a lot, but that's how it's feeling. Into just a big amount of damage, really. So, and then the control from the Druid. I think you play with the Resto Shaman, it could be, or Holy Priest, it could be really nasty.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That sounds awesome. I can't wait to see some high rated Destro boom cannon do the LSD there and see what happens. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I know. I said I remember Flark saying that DKs are gonna see a rise again, but I think that again. I think that was more because of the tier set, not because of double Lego. I'm trying to think who else was kind of on the lower edge. I wonder if Outlaw Rogue will see a rise, because I know Outlaw was pretty good in some specific instances, and I'm wondering if that might see some better play between the double Lego and the tier sets. But I don't know.
It's hard. Like specs like classes like Rogue are kind of annoying because the other specs are good. It's just sub is so insane. It's so hard to really gauge the power level of any of the Rogue specs compared to each other
Yeah.
because they're all so unique, and at the same time subtlety just seems to be pulling ahead consistently patch after patch, even outside of RMP. I think like RMP is obviously an insane comp, but I think rogues are kind of chained to the fact that sub is so good and RMP is so good.
Yeah. Oh, probably. I think Thug might come up though, with Shadow Priest getting some pretty strong Legos as well, or not just Legos, but tier sets too. So I wonder if we'll see some of that. I don't know. All right.
RPS stuff kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. I know Big's idea, what he thinks about the new Maldraxxus map. Personally, I think it's a really good map. I was really hoping that they'd have the second one, the Elysium map ready, but apparently they're still having issues with it. So it was only the Maldraxxian Coliseum that we got. I don't know. Did you play around with it? What do you think of the new map there, Jake?
I've actually played on it multiple times. I've been doing a lot of threes this week just to test out the classes that I'm playing, and I really like it. It's definitely interesting. It's a hard one to decide because what I notice is that it's really nice as a caster because it's quite an open map despite having 3 pillars. But then because of the pillars are so massive, it's kind of like a kind of smaller sized Tolveron in the fact that I've seen like demon hunters sort of like turn around and just fling themselves across the other pillar to avoid damage. It's very easy when I'm playing, melee to kind of like dodge and go back and move out the way behind pillars. So and because of that sort of the closeness of those pillars, it means that it's not massively too hard to chase and then go back and retreat. So it feels quite a balanced map. I like it. I've always enjoyed, I think those sort of maps are interesting. I was very intrigued for the new map, the other new map, just because of the kind of the pillar in the middle. And there's a nostalgia part of me that's sort of thinking back to the old Orgrimmar arena. Which sort of I think personally they should come back with that sort of that sort of style of things to kind of make it more of a gauntlet. It'd just be interesting to have a bit of spice in that sort of way. But I really liked it. I had no issues. I didn't hate it. It didn't make me angry like the new BFA maps did sometimes. But it was just nice. Maybe my mind will change. Come back to me next time.
Okay. I'll admit I like that setting of it. I like playing it with the solo shuffle. And yeah, I like the fact that if you need to reposition, unlike Tolveron where you're stuck out in the middle of the map for it feels like ages before you can finally get to where you want to be, this one you can still get caught if you're not careful, but you could definitely get where you need to. And yeah, the size of those pillars is definitely noticeable as being bigger. So I guess leading that, the solo shuffle, effective today in NA. It'll be tomorrow there for you, Jake. But that's going to be live. And with that, you got the quest where you can go in there and get, I think it's 15 rounds you have to play, and you got that initial part. A bunch of what was it? There's a bunch of different achievements we got with that as well. and seeing on Twitter there between Lika and Anna. So I think Lika said he got 1,000 honor and 70 conquest on his first win. He did a 7-1. And Anna said, because she was playing the alliance, so she got the enlistment bonus. She got 1350 honor for her first win, and I think after that it dropped to like 700 honor for each win. I think it was. I might be wrong on that part now, but I mean that seems pretty good for honor farming. I think that's a pretty good farm. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Big? Is that equal to better than or less than what you were expecting?
I don't know. Honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting, but I mean, those numbers sound pretty good. I think the community seems to be pretty outspoken that some of the secondary grinds in the game seem to take too long, and I think honor tends to be the least fun grind, just because it could feel so repetitive. I don't mind. It's not the worst case, the end of the world needing to go into a BG or something to farm honor, but sometimes it just feels like a bit too tedious. So yeah, I like those numbers, and the enlistment bonus is obviously pretty nice. I'm alliance right now, so I like that.
Yeah, short queue time. Well, actually, no. I think for this one, I think the queue time's actually longer as alliance because you're up against other alliance, right? You're similar faction, right? So that's kind of a trade-off there. Sorry, I just wanted so I got this. It was on the second round. It was 670 honor for Lika, 15 conquest, and he was getting 100 flux.
Yeah,
seems pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking it. And just on that, don't forget, if you're playing a tank, you're queuing into other tanks. You replace the healer spot, and if you're playing a prop paladin, you're only playing against other prop paladins. So chances are you're going to be sitting in queue for a long time.
It's karma.
Thank God. Thank God. Oh, that's so good.
I think that was absolutely brilliant. I was just trying to think what else. Anything else from 9.2? You guys, anything catch up there? Anything that pops in your brain about what they put in?
Have either of you watched any of the tier videos on classes for Solo Shuffle at all? Because a lot of people brought them out.
I made I made a tier list.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But have you seen the differences between?
Yeah, I know. When I was making the guide, I consulted with a few people, and there was some disagreement, specifically around arms warriors, and because arms warriors are kind of a jack of all trades, so presumably they'd be good in a solo environment where you're just kind of paired with whatever. But at the same time, I don't know if you've ever played like arms warrior in a skirmish or anything. Like sometimes you just get crushed because if your healer is bad, it feels really bad from the warrior point of view. You can't really carry the game in the way you like to carry it. But I mean, some classes seem obviously good, like Boomkins, Feral Druids. They seem by default really good, and I don't know. I mean, I think unfortunately a lot of the experiences people are going to have in Solo Shuffle are going to somewhat be determined by item level. If you have a low item level, it doesn't matter how good your class is in a solo environment like that. So maybe they could normalize stats somehow in that game mode. I think that would kind of help because I want to log in on my alt and queue Solo Shuffle, but I have no gear. It's going to feel terrible. I'm going to feel like I'm throwing. So hopefully that changes.
Interesting. That is really interesting. It was amusing because I just because I remember I watched Venruki's today and he put Arms Warrior as S tier for pretty much that same reason. And I was looking at the tier set and obviously I've played a lot of Enhance recently, and he put it down like B, like not even really like much of a thought. And I was just thinking in my head at the minute, I find it so much. I was playing with a couple of mates who haven't played the game for about half a year. They have no idea what's going on, and we were sort of playing it I'd say vaguely higher rating for them. And
Mhm.
it was I've played the first few games as Ellie, and it was difficult. And then I went and played Enhanced, and I one-tapped pretty much every single person. And every time this undergeared warrior was in any trouble, I just healed him for 30k with a big healing surge. And I'm just sitting
Yeah.
like, realistically speaking, the best classes for doing solo shuffle are the ones that like can literally do everything themselves, aka Feral Druid, Balanced Druid, Rep, Paladin,
Yeah.
Enhance.
Mhm.
Something like that. And obviously, depending on whether something's got a Mortal Strike, but like these hybrid classes are going to be big because you don't need to, if your healer's bad, doesn't matter. You're a healer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the time, these classes do horrendous, disgusting amounts of damage at the same time. So
So it works.
that was my feelings on that anyway.
I think you're spot on. I remember before when we were playing on the PTR there, a bunch of people were talking about how druids were going to be so amazing in solo shuffle because of also because one shot convoke and just move on, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I know Holinka did a great tweet, even though he said he had very little part in actually doing this because he's not PvP at all anymore. But he was talking about how what it took to make the solo shuffle, because they had to introduce a whole bunch of other systems. They had to do a bunch of new code. They had to tweak a bunch of stuff because they're basically doing something that was never meant to do. But he did note it. He did acknowledge the fact that they know it's not perfect. They know there still needs to be some iterations. That's why there's no rating to it right now. They want to figure that out before they move into the rating stuff. But I suspect that's also why there's no gear normalization, is because then they would just have to re-engineer and take that out when they go, because the intent is that there's supposed to be a rating that's going to be layered over top of this once they're happy with where it gets to, is how it kind of came across. So it would make sense that that's not in, because then they just have to take that out, versus I guess it's easier to then just add in a rating layer after the fact.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you ever noticed, but there's actually, when you're done it actually shows like what your rating has changed, which tells me that it's built into it already. It just isn't enabled, right?
Yeah. I think it's easy to forget that games are complicated systems,
Yeah.
and it's a layering of systems, as you described, and so it's just one little step at a time. We got to make sure this is working before we add this new feature. So
Definitely.
yeah, I don't mind waiting.
Good approach. It's a very good approach.
Yeah.
I just the big question that comes to mind really for me is whether or not the people that advocated for solo shuffle or solo queue in the first place are actually going to come back to WoW, because I'm 90% sure that it was like 90% Stoops in all his video that kind of got this going, and the guy doesn't play anymore. So I would hope that they might come back on their downtime and play solo shuffle and like give some good feedback and input, because they were so instrumental in getting this in the first place. And I think that's I think it's important, that sort of thing, because it would be a shame. But I hope it works out. I like this approach. I like this careful, considerate approach of them taking the time to analyze the data. You know what it reminds me of, actually? I was the first time that in a long time I was very impressed by Blizzard and the devs and everything, was when they did the same thing in classic TBC. They took the time to analyze what it would be like with BGs where you face the same faction.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that really before. That's obviously like a newer feature in retail. But in like older style games, obviously that took a very long time. And it was just, I never thought they'd ever do that. I was like, we're stuck farming people at summoning points because on PvP realms, because that's what you had to do to get honor as Horde. And they did that, and that was really impressive. And I like this approach. I really like this approach. In fact,
it's kind of ironic. Sometimes, if for a while it felt like there was more experimentation with the classic game than there was with the normal game, and it's like, wait a second. The classic is supposed to be a copy paste, carbon copy of the game as it was, and suddenly it says all these different things. Like, why can't we implement those sort of systems in the new game? Some version of those things in the new, the current game. Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting.
I had a meme in my head about how there's always like when Classic came out, there's that hashtag no changes where they didn't want it. Nobody wanted to change. Everybody wanted it to be exact copy and paste of what it had been. And there's that whole no change movement. And here we are in TBC Classic. They're putting faction versus faction in unrated BGs, which doesn't happen. They're doing all these changes and everything. In the meantime, here we are in retail, a whole season with no PvP tuning. All the systems were copy and paste from before, just new names on them. So I mean, literally, it was almost like reverse.
It was strange. Wrath is not going to be Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, no.
The Wrath Classic that comes out will not be the same Wrath. It will be entirely different. It will be tailored to a smaller and smaller community that that kind of enjoys the classic scenario. And that's just the thing is that people realize that. Yeah, and that's totally fine. Obviously, that's massively fine. I'd prefer that because the hashtag no changes was hashtag awful. Quite literally, it was people played vanilla and were like, huh, yeah, no changes, finally we've got the game that we've always really wanted, and then they're like, oh god, it sucks. Now I remember why I hated it. And it's just like, that was the same thing for me. I remember vanilla. I remember being 13 years old, struggling with my Tauren warrior trying to kill raptors in STV, and it's just like that was a hellhole. I was like, all I wanted to do was ride my Kodo, and I grinded every single day because I didn't know what the hell was going on, and it was just people now like you if you enjoy that, fair enough. But it was sort of like people were reminded of why the improvements happened.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how people have this like nostalgic view of the good old days. It's like, back in the day, right, in the 1900s, right, life was better, life was easier. But it's like people were dying of like dysentery or something. It's like, geez, like we're out on the Oregon Trail, like hunting bison. I don't want to go back to that.
No, they literally poop themselves to death. Like that's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What do you mean I can't ring Amazon and have my food here in 2 days?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Exactly.
One thing I right before we do the one thing you change, a couple of things I noticed that are really cool. The catch-up mechanics. So there's being able to buy the BOE gear for anima. 500 anima, it's not cheap, but I mean it's not bad. And because you can transfer anima, you could literally like transfer a buttload of anima to an alt, run into Zerith Mortis, gear yourself out to 226, and you're off to the races. There's the cipher gear that drops all over the place, which if you guys noticed, but as you spend your ciphers or whatever, your current for leveling up the little robot dude, he gets levels, and as he goes up in levels, the purple gear that drops in Zerith Mortis goes up in levels. So it starts at 226 and it goes up to 240 something. When it gets up to level 6. I think it's like 249. So it's pretty good. There's that. And then the third to get your third vault is only 5,500 honor instead of 625. So it's a little bit easier to get your third vault now in PvP. And it costs less honor to upgrade your gear as well. So I think that's I think all in all, those are some solid changes in helping people catch up as well. So
for sure.
Don't forget conduits as well. Big. Yes.
Sorry, you're right. So there's So there's the item you can buy and it will let you. I think that's buying on pickup though. So it's not great. Like you have to grind out the rep and everything on that character. But then once you have that, then you can buy the item that gets you to have maxed out conduits on that character.
One assumes that once you get to revered on one character, you're able to get your other characters up there fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, there is gated, but 239 from friendly. And then I think it's 245 from honored or revered or something like that. I'm not sure. Either way, that's a big increase, especially when a lot of your conduits are level 200. So
yeah,
it's a big. That's the last big up. I suppose character wide upgrade that we got.
Mm-hmm.
So
somebody was pointing out that the conduits you buy for honor or off the PvP vendor haven't gone up an item level. They're still like
that's weird. That's really weird.
Surely they will though as you go up. I mean, I don't know how many people has NA gone like rival. Has anyone gone higher than like anyone gone 2-1? I don't know. I mean,
I see what you said
it's
there.
questions like this I got to ask. No, but I'm in seriousness because if it would be nice to know because obviously that scaled with your rating, surely.
I don't think so.
Did that not?
I don't know. I have no idea how that works.
Because
I know it has been the same item level for a while.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I remember it going from. I remember when I did fresh alts that it would change from 226 to 239, being the max that you could get it to buying from PvP, and that changed when I got rating. I don't know whether or not it will again. I couldn't say. I'd have to obviously get the rating and figure that out. But
I was under the impression it stayed the same, but because I didn't go up very high in rating, so and then somebody else said the same thing. I was like, oh, I think somebody else. The other thing, the season 3 unrated gear is like item level 2. It's really low. Like it's well below 226. So, just be aware that if you're going to do that, you're going to have to also get yourself some PvE gear to run around until you get high enough. You rank that stuff up, or you get your conquest gear, because it's well below 226, the kind of entry level for Zerith Mortis and that. So just if anybody does that, I guess one thing you change though, big. I like hitting you. I like picking on you first. What's one thing out of all the changes that got implemented into 9.2, or didn't?
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing you would change? What's one thing that either change that already got implemented, make it different, or something that you wish had happened and got implemented?
Well, I would like to see some sort of scaling system in PvP for gear, item level, conduits, like the whole, everything. Because I still think there's probably going to be massive disparities that are going to be kind of annoying to deal with. I think the conduit disparity is kind of annoying to the point where it's just doesn't feel fun, like to even on your main character, if you're missing like one of the conduits, if you don't get lucky with the world drops or whatever it is, however you acquire your conduits, if you don't get the one you need, I think that can feel kind of frustrating. So I think some sort of scaling system, maybe specifically even for conduits, and maybe a soft scaling system for gear in some capacity would be nice. I didn't see. I know they're continuing with the same honor upgrade system with multiple tiers, right? Combatant, Challenger 1, Rival, all that stuff. And I still would have preferred, I think many people probably would have preferred a reduction in those upgrade tiers to have there be significantly less, or, tighter item levels between the lowest and the highest. So some version of scaling in any capacity that brings lower geared characters closer in line with fully geared characters.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Jake, what's one thing you'd change? Same question.
I think it was. I've mentioned it before, but PvP sets as opposed to tier sets, as opposed to the baseline PvE ones. I think I love innovation. I love that sort of thing, but I always feel as if, like we've kind of mentioned on fairness and the disparity between different tier sets, is that I think that PvP tier sets should have minor adjustments to how you play the PvP. And obviously, we mentioned about sort of people preferring class design and stuff like that. Like I think personally that a lot of PvP talents that we have, like for example, Ice Wall and Static Field Totem, a lot of these really super cool, interesting PvP talents should be brought baseline or put, and then we should have sort of very minor changes in like tier sets and stuff like that to kind of promote sort of like the kind of interesting different specs, stuff like that. That would be my big thing. I just think something that like either sort of buffed maybe stamina and then or buffed maybe like main stat, for example, and then a sort of like small increase to something, like a slight increase to damage where it needed to be, or like a slight increased length of something, or a slight cooldown of whatever, like that for me kind of just, it's sort of in the same way that in the old days it used to make your quality of life just be improved. That would be what I'd be looking for.
Okay. I like it. You should. It's really funny you say that, because that's exactly a huge conversation that had happened over on the Discord in the last couple days. Was talking about PvP sets over PvE tier sets and why they didn't. I'm actually going to steal from one of the listeners, from Drown Lord, from the Discord, because I do agree, and kind of to what you're leaning on as well, Big. But using the WoD PvP set where there was just like one honor set, one conquest set, none of this tiers, none of this upgrading, none of this huge extra grinding, and like on top of trying to grind CR, but also grinding honor to then upgrade your gear to the next level, and all the gating that happens with that. So I wish that they had done that. I think the set, having ranked sets and behind CR and all those all these little these micro steps and everything was an interesting experiment, but I don't know. I don't know if it really worked out the way that they wanted, and I don't think the player bases enjoyed it as much as they'd hoped. So,
just to add one more point to that, I don't feel good about pressing upgrade on, like, even if I get the rating, it doesn't bring me like joy. I'm like, oh, my piece is slightly better. That's cool. Like it doesn't feel like a very engaging, like, oh, that was fun pressing that upgrade button finally. It just seems like silly to me. I don't know.
Do you feel more powerful? Do you?
I don't know, man.
You do when you press Arena Skirmish and you queue into the guys with no gear.
Yeah, that's right.
True fact. Or just do do what Bajira does and roll into some random BG and just Bladestorm and watch everybody melt.
He terrorizes people. He actually terrorizes people. He rolls into these BGs and just absolutely steamrolls them. They don't even know what's going on. They just see this guy and they're like, "Oh, look, cool, that's Bajira. Hey, Bajira!" And then suddenly they're flattened by Bajira. and and Bajira's got like 5 million pocket healers, so Bajira's never going down. He's just a one-man army that runs through, and then he puts on TikTok. So it's kind of like
you get put on TikTok for all the Zoomers to laugh at you. They're like, "Oh, haha, like look at this noob getting one shot."
Immortalized by by Bashir.
That was my nameplate. That was my nameplate that died right there.
Yay!
Well, there's this warrior. I'm just gonna tell a really quick story. There's this warrior who was in Ham MVP, and I met him at BlizzCon a few times. His name is Intrepid.
Yeah.
He was rank 1 warrior. He's a nice guy, really nice guy in real life. He is forever immortalized because he was in a Hoodrich PvP video. Hoodrich is a rank 1 warrior back in the day.
Yeah.
And in the video, Intrepid winds up killing Hoodrich's healer and then slash Raffles at Hoodrich. And you see it zoomed into the chat. And then Hoodrich proceeds to 1v2 Intrepid and his healer. And so we always meme on him. It's like he got immortalized in this one moment of a PvP video from ages ago, and we just constantly bring it up. And he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." I'm that guy.
It's hard. That's a hard thing. If you ever emote in an arena and you're not 100% gonna kill you're not gonna win, it's soul destroying.
That's funny.
Yes.
Was that the warrior friend you tweeted about earlier, where you're looking for a female friend for them?
Oh no, I can't legally disclose.
Yeah.
All right. On that, let's do some PvP news and roll on out of here.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right, there's Millhouse giving us the sign to get out of here. First and foremost with the news, Burning Crusade, the Classic Arena Tournament, happened on finished on the 20th of February. 2 different cups, really, the EU and the NA. Big congrats to Blackwater Gaming for taking first place in the EU. That was Minpoike, Merlal, and Chanimal. And which is, I have to admit, was kind of interesting seeing Chanimal over on the EU rather than playing NA. And then we got Super Fresh, which is Snuts, Floormat, and Tiki. And they took first place in NA with, who would have thought, RMP. So I have to admit, it was a pretty fun tournament. I don't know if either of you guys caught any of it. Yes, no? Am I the only one that watched it?
I watched a little bit.
I didn't get a chance to. It's annoying because I've done video editing for both Mir and Snuts, and I play Classic, but I didn't get a chance. I've been honestly so busy, I didn't even get a chance to do it. So, but I'm glad both of them won. Obviously, no bias.
No bias whatsoever. Well, if you ever want, they actually streamed it both on Twitch and on YouTube. So pick your platform of choice, and you can go check out the VODs. I like the YouTube one because they have it broken up into chapters. So when you go there, you can go to the games you want to watch. So on that, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I want to say Minpoike, Merlal, and Chanimal were playing Lock Druid Warrior, if I remember correctly.
I think they're playing RLD.
Yeah, RLD. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, RLD. My problem. Which is really good. I always enjoyed watching good old SLSL Warlocks. The other neat thing was they did post interviews with Chanimal and with Snuts at the end of each section. And Chanimal actually said that he wasn't going to be competing in the AWC at all this year. So it looks like he's just going to be playing Classic and whenever that stuff comes up. So that was interesting. Following into the AWC, been following up over on Twitter. There's been a few announcements. So we got oh boy, let's hear it. So we got first and foremost Waz, Raikou, Chaz, and Meh. They got a 4-player roster now, and with that they have a team name. So they're the only ones that actually have an organization. They just got that announced, which is awesome. They're going to be working under Team Kungarna. Kungarna? Am I saying that right? I'm not sure if I'm saying that.
It's probably some Swedish word. You've probably butchered it like 10 times over. Like, who knows?
I think it's Kungarna or something like that. I don't know.
Who knows?
It's my best impression.
You're better than me. But kudos to them. They have so they got that one. And it's interesting. 2 healers on the same team.
It's a throwback to Tempo Storm in 2015. They had 2 healers on the same team. It's interesting. I think the general consensus is Meh is the better RMP healer. And I think he only plays Holy Priest, so I think they'll probably have Meh for RMP only, and then Chaz will be the more generalist healer. It's a very interesting lineup. I think Meg probably can play other things too, but RMP is just so strong. Why would you? So
I think my prediction for them is they'll be playing RMP with Meh, because Meh is probably the best ladder healer right now on EU for sure, maybe in the world. And they'll play RMP with Meh, and I think they'll play DH Boomkin with Chaz on Arshaman. I think they'll play that, or they'll play like some of the other maybe slightly different comps, like maybe like Warrior DH with Chaz on other healers that way, or something like that, depending what they are. I think the big thing with Waz and Raikou is just maybe more so Waz is just the adaptability and how he's become more of a multi-classer now than ever before.
Yeah. I legitimately think Waz is the best player in WoW right now, for WoW PvP. I think he's right now currently Waz is the best player, I think, hands down. He plays I think like 6 or 7 specs at rank 1, which is pretty nuts. So yeah, Waz is just a jack of all trades, and
pretty nuts.
Yeah, he's EU nuts.
Yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. I think so. The other ones I saw, so you got Tessia. So he's teamed up with Frosty, Lontar, and Blizzo. They're looking for an organization. And then you have Luxia. So Julian is teamed up with Eritros, Bic Mex Wow, and Heavens Feel Lub. Oh, these names. I love Twitter names. And again, they're looking for looks like they're looking for an organization. So I don't know. It's a couple teams that are forming up there. I was also snooping around over on the signups, and I saw another Ratapi group in there as well. So I actually like Ratapi as a healer. Looking forward to seeing him play. He's so aggressive. It's just he's a blast to watch. That's why.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in what's going to happen to Cloud9 on the NA side of things.
I don't think it's happening. I don't think Snuts is coming back. I don't think.
Interesting.
I don't think the Chanimal's not coming back at all. I don't think it's happening.
Well, Chanimal said he's not playing at AWC this year.
Yeah.
And
I don't think Snuts is.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well, we will see. We'll see what's happening.
It happens. I have to admit, I like it better now than in the past, where organizations would pick up teams just for the grand finals or like the regionals, and then they would drop them afterwards. And or even worse, you'd have a team where they might pick up a sponsor somewhere along the line, and then the team would fall apart, and then they'd have to, they lose that sponsorship and then move over. So it was always this weird mixture of teams making and crumbling, and then anyway. So this one, this has probably been one of the most stable decades of organizations and teams. But
I just feel like with Cloud9, I mean it's like, it's like Michael Jordan retiring, like that was a titan in the NA region for a really long time. So
yeah, for
sad,
us.
but
I think the real question is in this season 3 of AWC, are we going to see anybody break Cloud9's meta, damp meta? Anybody going to break any of those record dampeners?
I hope not. Yeah, really hope not. God, that was boring.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't remind us, please.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Into the hot fixes. Let's talk about those quickly. There was a number of hot fixes they did to items, mostly on the PvE side. With the launch, there was a whole bunch of different, I'd say, hot fixes they did for PvP as well. So basically, there's some interactions, some bugs, talking about how Druid Restoration interacted with the Monk's Ring of Peace for the Inner Peace talent. What else? There's
the Priest Res one was huge, I think.
Why don't you talk about that one?
I don't know exactly how the interaction works. I think, but I just know that priests every 2 minutes were able to go into their Spirit of the Redeemer form and cast Resurrection.
Yep.
And so they would be able to res their partners in the middle of an arena game every 2 minutes. So I saw some absurd screenshots, with like 2v2 games where there was 6 total kills on one side, like priests just kept on resing their partner.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, the obvious workaround is just kill the priest. That's the solution right there. But I guess if they're playing with the res Lego, then you have to come to it's a mess. But whatever, it's fixed. No longer, wrap it up, pack it up, priest. Your fun is done for the remainder of the season. But yeah, very minor changes, I think, on the PvP side.
I have to speak on that though. I really like the solution that Blizzard put in place, which was, instead of just nullifying the ability, they're like, you can go ahead and pick that. But now when you go to res, you're sacrificing your own spirits. You're actually killing yourself off to res your partner, which was, I think that's very, that there's that fine, that's the Blizzard essence there, where they find that sweet little spot of how to fix something and make it still interactable.
Do you think it'll work? Do you think it'll be working if like you're like really high up on the ladder and you're constantly queuing into the same team, but you're always like you're almost getting cross kills in the way, and you take that just to kind of like survive a little bit and just get like a res off on like a potential chance for a cross kill or something like that. I don't know. I don't think it'd work actually, but like
It's funny you mention that because like I always thought shamans could probably play with the res totem more
They
often
do.
than they.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think
Lontar did
that's
a lot.
yeah. It just seemed like an interesting mechanic that wasn't really explored too much. Explored in a wide by a wide audience. Like one player playing it is cool, but I think in general there needs to be more experimentation with these talents because I don't know. It seems like it'd be
Yeah.
good on paper, right?
Yeah.
Just it's I think most people kind of feel averse to the idea of killing someone and then they res again, like seed, res Lego for Holy Priest, that kind of stuff. Like it's the idea of actually doing. I suppose it works in a meta where everything can one shot you and there's a lot of high damage, but it's just so frustrating to kind of get like a perfect go, especially if you're not sort of something like that is a setup based comp.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you kill them and they're like, are they res? Like I think I've such bad PTSD from that I always ask my partners because I don't trust myself now. I'm like, have they got res Lego? Please tell me. Have they got it? Have they got? I can't tell. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm panicking, and then I'm reassured. So,
Well, yeah. I think the difference is with the shaman totem, you can still kill the totem, right? Like if you nuke the totem, then they won't res. Versus this was completely like you couldn't even interrupt.
Yeah.
there's no stopping.
Yeah.
So it was, that was a little less fun, I'll say. All
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
Well, I think that's about all I saw as far as hot fixes since 9.2 dropped. What else is there? So neat one over in China. I'm actually kind of hoping this gets over here. So they're offering BattleNet points that you can use in the store to buy yourself things for reporting people. And if
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, they're rewarding people. So if you report somebody for breaking TOS or whatever, and it turns out to be a valid report, then apparently you're going to earn points. And then when you go onto the Blizzard store, I'm thinking it's I think it's the in-game store. It's for digital stuff. So I'm actually gonna bring this up right now. But yeah, it's you can buy yourself Hearthstone card packs. You can buy yourself mounts and pets. Heroes of the Storm stuff, and whatnot. Yeah, so it looks like it's I don't think it's anything physical, but yeah, you can yeah, if you report somebody and anywhere from 150 points to 6,000 points of gear, depending on what you some TCG stuff there. So yeah.
There we go. Perfect. It's like League of Legends, isn't it? They used to have that. I don't know if they still do, but you have incentive for reporting, which is always good. Turns you into a snitch, like a really bad one, but it's positive snitching.
Yeah, I think it's good that there's stuff that people are doing that hurts the game. Bot farming hurts the game, hurts the economy. I'm really glad they made the changes they did to the terms of service for all the spamming that we're seeing in trade chat and that for carries and whatnot. I'm glad that's gone. So I think it's all valid stuff. BG Wizard, as I know we talked about him. He invited us over onto his podcast, The Battleground Breakdown. He had actually taken a break from the game. He had gone and he was a little frustrated with the game and some of the situations that were in it and stuff. So he had moved on. He did some it was Guild Wars and Lost Ark and whatnot. But he's come back to playing WoW. He's back with his guild Eminent and doing the art. He's very strong in the RBG scene, and he started back up his podcast. So if anybody wants to go check that out, I got the playlist in the show notes. And so we're not the only, not that we're really the only PvP podcast in the sphere, if you will, but it's another one that I'm aware of. So go ahead and give them a listen if you want. So this is a neat one I saw. So actually, this is right to the whole WoW highlights. There's I think he's Russian, a guy named Durmax. He apparently earned himself a gladiator title playing a Ret Paladin on an Xbox controller.
That's like an Onion article that like wrote itself, like you don't have to, you say no more. That's I'm just nodding my head. I'm like, yes, finally, like it's been done. That guy has the most epic punchline ever.
Yeah. So if you want, there's the link in the show notes. You go over to YouTube or just go over to the channel and watch it yourself. It's the first highlight. They always start off with like a big highlight, and then they go into the reel of PvP and then PvE spotlights. But it shows him he has a camera on the Xbox controller, so you actually see like how he's moving his hands around and doing the button clicks and all that. And it's pretty intricate, but it was really awesome. And Morrow got he's highest rated player of all time now. Where's this from?
So, yes. Well, he was 3,800. I don't think anyone's been higher than 38, whatever they were.
I don't know.
Yeah, according to Morrow, he got his last win of the arena season with 1 minute remaining before the ladder closed. So I think whatever the ladder ends at 2 a.m. or something, he got his last win at 1:59 and became the highest rated player of all time as a panda. And I added that because, you're thinking to yourself, who the heck plays Panda? Doesn't that suck in PvP? Well, in the words of Mars, sometimes it's funny because sometimes WoW logic, especially in Shadowlands, it seems so stupid. And you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but it makes perfect sense. So the reason he's playing Panda is because, in these moments where you have combust up and you have a kill, why would you cast a sheep? Just DB Panda and don't even bother with the hard cast, and you just have 2 instant cast ECs to send your combust. So I just thought that was such a silly explanation, and it made perfect sense. It's like, yeah, why would you, if you have your win condition, make it as easy as possible. Just Panda instead of Polymorph. Way easier.
Yeah.
It's just a silly thing, but it's Shadowlands, man. That's how it works.
We were talking about micro CCs earlier, and there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Fun times.
I remember Panda being no, it's not Panda. Sorry, it was Kulturan, which was like who the heck plays Kulturan, and a lot of people were playing him in BGs because you could haymaker somebody halfway across a map.
Fun times.
Depending where they were, depending on elevations and whatnot. Like literally, you whack and gone. So, all right.
See ya.
I like it. 3,800. Holy shamoly. That's
4K
crazy.
this season.
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully not. I like small. I like this. I like the smaller numbers. It seems more fun and interesting.
2,800 are good.
Yeah.
This was one of the longest mid expansion seasons we've ever had. The only seasons that have been longer are the last ones because there's always that tail drag before the next expansion comes out. But this was 33 weeks long. I think the only thing longer I think it was 30. I think 38 was the longest that we've had historically. It's crazy. Yeah, it's huge. All right. Time for some shout outs. Jake, you first. Do you have anybody you want to shout out?
Oh, I'm on the spot. To be honest, mostly I want to shout out you guys and Warcraft Radio for inviting me on and being so on this, just organized and amazing and just very welcoming. I've really enjoyed my first session as sort of like a more kind of permanent spot on the show. And it's been really awesome. So thank you so much for making it so easy. It's been a real pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thanks, man. Thanks for saying yes. Would have been awkward if you said no.
No. Yeah.
Big, how about you?
Oof. I don't know if I have any shout outs.
All right.
Geez, I always struggle with this. I'm gonna shout out Jax. Oh yes, Jax, because
Oh yeah.
he made an add-on. There's this weird bug that happens with the interface where if you have an ability that's on CD, say I don't know, I'm just throwing words out here, but like say you have Vanish on CD, and you get polymorphed, and you get polymorphed right before your Vanish comes off CD. You can't see the actual cooldown on Vanish because you're polymorph, so the CC becomes the cooldown on Vanish. So if you were to trinket the poly and you're like, oh, I have probably a Vanish available, you might not. So what he made an add-on that basically, I'm sorry if that explanation was confusing, but he made an add-on that made it more obvious to see what your cooldowns are when you're stuck in a CC, because sometimes the CC effect will override the cooldown. It's just a weird visual bug. Maybe not even a bug. It's just a visual problem with the game. And so shout out Jax for making that on to fix that.
Yes. Well, remind me next time. We'll have to put that in the news because just in case anybody misses that, because I think some people stop listening about this far into the podcast. So
yeah,
that's an important one, I think. I'm going to give a shout out to my wife for making me this wonderful T-shirt that I actually am enjoying wearing as much. Right now it's the only way that I'm going to have Invincible, so I can actually have it. So shout out to her for making that. And after we're done the show, I'll tell you how to make your own shirt, Big. I'll
nice.
do that for you. All right.
Looking forward to
it. In the meantime, Big, why don't you list off where our listeners can reach us?
Sure, you can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on the Warcraft Radio Discord.
Indeed. And you can also visit the Warcraft Radio website to find a podcast directory with us and many other great shows over at warcraftradio.com. And the directory there, as always, has that review system, so head on over there, tell everybody what you think of your favorite shows, and maybe drop something for us too. Again, links for everything we talked about is going to be in the show notes. I want to thank everyone for listening. Chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.